So what we're going to talk about is the difference between two different philosophies or ideas about economics. The first comes from a book written by a man named Adam Smith about 200 years ago. He read a book, very famous book called The Wealth of Nations. That book broke down the idea of capitalism. In contrast, about 150 years ago, there was a man by the name of Karl Marx who wrote a book called The Communist Manifesto. The Communist Manifesto broke down the ideas of communism or socialism. They are slightly different, but for our purposes, we're going to learn them as synonymous terms for right now. Later, we will divide them a little bit more when we get to the 1900s. If we start with the ideas of Adam Smith, his ideas apply to the marketplace in an industrial society. If you will follow me down here and you look, this is what you would typically see if you drove down the streets here in Northern Virginia. You would see Exxon stations, you wouldn't actually see this on the streets, but we know that in society we have the Apple company, we have Starbucks companies, we have Walmart companies, we have all of these different companies, okay? This is, Adam Smith said, this is the idea of capitalism. Capitalism is where people in society go to work every day at one of these particular places, and they work for somebody that had the foresight and that really pushed very hard to open up a company and to get a company going where other people would work. In the idea of capitalism, we have what is called market competition. Market competition means that if this man down here decides that he's going to open up a company called Exxon, he goes out and he gets investors or he gets people to put their money into his idea. If they know him and they think that he's a hard worker, they will want to invest in his company because he will give them a small share of the company or a bit of stock from the company. And as the company makes money, those people will make money along with the entrepreneur or the person that opened that company. So an entrepreneur is a person that goes out and starts a company. His company, Exxon, as we know, is constantly competing with other companies like Mobil, okay? Other companies like Sunoco, and all these different gas companies that we know, okay? He will actually be competing with them. Let me give you a quick example of market competition here. If you come over here to our examples here, these are two examples that you all know about pretty well. Walmart is a company that is everywhere. There's almost no street in America that you can drive down that you don't see either a Walmart or a Starbucks. In the 1980s, no one had ever heard of this company, Walmart. In fact, there was another company by the name Kmart. Kmart is still around today, but it is slightly around in comparison to Walmart. What Kmart did, because it was the #1 distributor in America, is it got kind of lazy. It started thinking, we don't have any competition, we're always going to be on top. And what happened as a result is this company, Walmart, came along, and they had a guarantee in their early days. Times have changed a little bit, but their guarantee was that if there were 3 people in line, they would always open up another register. One of the things people complained about at this other company, Kmart, was that there were always long lines. And so Walmart came in. They had brightly lit stores. Their stores were bigger than the Kmart stores. They always opened new lines, and they basically started running Kmart out of business with their guarantee that they always had low prices. Walmart came along and said, we don't go on sale. We are a 365-day-a-year sale. So Walmart did some very good things. Starbucks did some very similar things with companies like Dunkin' Donuts that had been around for a long time distributing coffee. Starbucks wasn't necessarily better at making coffee, but they were better at creating an atmosphere around coffee, okay? This is what we call market competition. Dunkin' Donuts has really had to shape up and has changed its act in a lot of ways and has pushed forward and has seen as a result that it's starting to do a lot better because it had to compete in order to stay in business. Adam Smith said this is a great thing. Let companies compete, because when companies compete, what happens is people, that go into these companies. When you walk into a Walmart, you get the best products for the lowest price. Why? Because they are competing against Kmart. And you also, along with that, get good service. At least that's the intention. Starbucks, same thing. Good service. How many times do you go in and the baristas know you by name? They do that on purpose because they want your business. They have to constantly be competing. This all goes back to this idea of capitalism. Companies compete, the best companies survive, the companies that don't do well and don't produce good products at great prices go out of business, and ultimately the people that go to these places win. They do well. Okay? In a capitalistic society, as you guys know because you live in one, there is an unequal distribution of income. Unequal, meaning at the end of the day, the entrepreneur that opened up this Apple company, okay, he just died several years ago, or last year, he is going to make millions of dollars at the end of the day, okay? Some of his high managers are going to make a bunch of money, but the lowest person, let's say the person that sweeps the floor at Apple, is not going to make a lot of money. And when I say lowest person, I mean lowest person on the economic scale. They're not going to make a lot of money. So we say that the distribution of income or of money is unequal. That creates some problems in a capitalistic society. What do you do about the people that don't make enough money to pay their basic bills? How does society deal with that problem? In reaction to that, you have a man named Karl Marx, who worked with several other people, but it was primarily Karl Marx that we credit this to, wrote a book called The Communist Manifesto. He said that society should be set up different economically. He said all of the people should own all of the means of production, meaning the factories, or as we call them today, businesses. So in other words, all the people that work for Starbucks and that go and work for Walmart and that go and work for Apple, they would all collectively own the businesses. So if Walmart does especially good in a year and makes 10% extra in profit, that 10% extra in profit does not just go to the CEOs and the entrepreneurs, the people that started the company. It would be distributed equally. This is where we get this idea of redistribution of wealth. It would be distributed equally amongst all of the people. So if you go to a country that is communist in nature, those countries do not have businesses that are named after the people that started the businesses, because all the businesses are started by the government, essentially. The government, or a central planning committee, decides what is needed out there. If there are coffee shops needed, then they send people out to open up coffee shops and so on. And all of those businesses work together, essentially, for the good of their people. And everybody in that society is supposed to be equal. That is at least the intention of a communist or of a socialistic system. All of the people own the means of production, whereas in a capitalistic system, it is entrepreneurs that own the company, and entrepreneurs become fabulously wealthy because of that fact. Okay? Down at the bottom here, we said redistribution of wealth. That means essentially that anywhere where there is unequal wealth, the government collects taxes from the rich and redistributes that money back to the very poor in society to make sure that the inequities or the unfairness that sometimes happens in capitalistic societies does not take place.